So in this video I'm going to be showing you how to shade your leaf, and if you want to see how to sketch the shape of the leaf, then make sure you see my other video in the link below, just to figure out kind of where you want it on the page first and how to get that shape right. I was drawing from life here, so it might look slightly different. I might have been looking at it from a different angle, and also the lighting has changed outside as I've been doing this over a couple of days in different filming sessions, so yeah, things might change slightly, but you don't need to worry about being too exact. Now with this part here, a lot of people always make those lighter veins of the leaf dark, but actually that is the case on some leaves, but actually a lot of them it's the lightest part, so you actually need to remember to shade around those parts. So that's what I'm doing here. I'm just shading around, I'm kind of figuring out where those bits are. You can of course first draw in just one line, but then you need to make sure that you shade around that, so feel free to have a little practice elsewhere. So now I'm just getting a piece of tissue. If you have a blending stump, then you can use that, but this is basically a tutorial for if you don't have any kind of special art materials. You literally just need the real basics. So even just a bit of toilet roll or something, and just fold it up into a point as much as possible, and then you can use this to blend and really get like a good base tone, because you don't really want many or much of the page to be white in the end. You want it all to be a mixture of every tone, and I'm actually using that now to also kind of draw in some of the areas I want to be grayer, and it's much quicker than basically just shading with a pencil. You can get a much lighter shade, and I'm using an HB pencil, so this would also be good for things like 2B, 4B, and basically the bigger the number, the softer the pencil is. But I really just want to show you how to draw this with the absolute basics, and most people have an HB pencil. This probably won't work with a harder pencil like a B or an H. Also, as a general rule, when you are drawing, you should be looking at what you are drawing, as in the subject, the object itself, more than you are looking at your actual drawing. So there's lots of different theories on different percentages. Some people say look at the object 80% of the time and 20% you're drawing. And I think as long as you're looking at the object a lot more than you are looking at your drawing, that is the main thing to remember. You should be looking at the object a lot and really looking at where the darker areas are, where the lighter areas are, where those lines are. We've already sketched in the main shape and structure early on, and now we're really looking at where those darker areas are. So I'm kind of just sometimes squinting and really looking at the object, just squinting your eyes to pick out where is darker, where is lighter. Sometimes even editing the image first, just with a simple, just by turning up the contrast, for example, is really helpful to see where those darker areas are, because when you first start drawing, you might just be looking at this object and thinking, well, it's all green and that's it. Sometimes turning that image to black and white and emphasising the contrast, or brightening it, darkening it, to see where those dark and light and medium values are in the picture, in the image, which of course is easier if you've got a photo of something, but if you've got something in front of you in real life, then it's usually easier to see those details anyway rather than looking on a screen. And as you'll see, I'm often changing between using my rubber and my blending tool and my pencil, constantly changing. So sometimes I might blend over a little bit too much, or I might need to lighten an area, but I've lightened it too much with the rubber. I'm going to go back in with a blending tool, or I've blended something a little bit too much, I can go back with the rubber and just fix in. Sometimes it's actually nice to get a base. So another way you could do this leaf is just to get the whole thing a base of a medium tone grey, and then use your rubber as if it were a white pencil to carve in those little veins and any highlights that you see, and then back in with the pencil to darken up certain areas, so you want the biggest range of tones you can possibly get. And do turn your paper around to make it easy for you. Sometimes you might find it hard to to blend certain areas depending on how, what angle you're sitting at. So turn your paper rather than trying to sort of turn your body around to an awkward angle. And here I'm just going to do the same on the other side as much as possible, and this is quite time consuming. So feel free to have a break when you're doing this, like I did, because sometimes if you then want to rush on with it, then it's not going to be as good. So you're better off just moving on, doing something else, and then coming back to it with fresh eyes. So to add some more texture to the leaf, when I'm blending, I'm kind of dabbing it on in some areas rather than just kind of smudging it around. I want to actually create this mottled effect, because if you look really close at the leaf, it's not just completely smooth, it's got kind of lots of different kind of slightly bumpy textures. So I've done that with some kind of more dotted sort of tonal shading with my work, and now I'm kind of dabbing and dotting that on with the blender. And again, now with the rubber, I'm doing the same kind of thing. I'm just sharpening up some of those lighter areas from where I've just blended and kind of smudged over some of those areas. I'm just picking out the areas that I really want to be as light as possible. And again, I'm kind of using my rubber, kind of dabbing the rubber rather than, I'm not just like rubbing something out because I've decided I've done something wrong. I'm using the rubber as a tool, just like as if it were a white pencil, for example. So at this point I'm starting to feel like it's coming together, but I don't quite have the largest range of tones yet. So I'm just going to show you an example up here. I'm going to shade from dark to light, and that's just going to emphasise what I can, the darkest tone I can actually get with my pencil. That is not in my drawing at the moment. I can get much darker than that. So I'm going to start building up and just use that tonal gradient on the right hand side as a reference for how dark I can get some of the parts of my image. That doesn't mean go and make the whole thing darker, it just means where the darker areas are, shade those in. And you can see that from the comparison in the picture in the bottom left of the actual leaf, it's a lot darker than I'm drawing, and I don't want to go that dark because I feel that would ruin the image. I've kind of by drawing it, I'm deciding what I want to be darker and what I want to be lighter. So I want the overall picture to be lighter, but I do still want to have that darker range, because that is what makes your work look more 3D, by having that full range of tones. So I'm just really going in and picking up on those edges, especially just emphasising the kind of imperfect nature of the leaf and where there are sort of lots of little bumps and lines and things on the edges that I didn't really pick up in my original sketch. Also not forgetting to add in the shadow, so really, really light pencil lines make sure you hold your pencil high up so that you've got light pressure and maybe darker pressure in some areas, get lower to where the lead is, and then I'm going to smudge that out so it's nice and blended and soft, because you don't want it to look too harsh. And depending on the lighting situation, maybe you have got harsh light and there is a harsh shadow, but in my situation it's just natural light. If you find that your rubber's getting dirty, then just rub it against some other scrap paper that you've got, just to clean off the bits where it's got too much lead on. And finally, just doing a double check of everything, any other details I might have missed, and not forgetting the shadow on the stem there. And don't forget to use hairspray at the end to fix your work to stop it from smudging.